Welcome to 3 Talk with me, Nolene. On our journey to meet the one, we encounter many maybes, almost and definitely nots, the result of which is a lot of baggage. Inevitably, this baggage comes along with us, unpacking itself into the deepest recesses of our minds and haunting our current relationships with the ghosts of past ones.
It may be that the one person feels that the relationship has had its time and it's over, and the other felt that it doesn't. So for that person, that expectation remains that this worked, and now I've got to go and replicate this with someone else. And so every single person I go on a date with, I'm going, a standard has been set. It's a high standard. Exactly. And I've got to, and I'm not then prepared to look at the fresh new qualities of this particular person. You know, it's a bit like if you love Chinese food and you only go to Chinese restaurants, you know, and then all the Chinese restaurants happen to close down. This is a bizarre analogy, but stay with me. They all close down, and it's like, well, why don't you try Italian now? And you're like, well, no, but I'm not used to Italian. It doesn't feel right. The smells are different. And so I think there's that transition period to go, wait, let me give this person a chance. Maybe they have other qualities that may well make up for the qualities for, maybe it doesn't taste like Chinese food, but Italian food tastes pretty good too. So I think that's when it's really ended for one person who felt that that person was the standard. Of course, a whole different story if it was a bad relationship. And then, of course, it poisons the whole gender. You know, we all hear people, how often do you hear people saying, oh, men, you know, they're all the same, or women, they're all the same.
They?
Well, I don't know, Molly, you tell us. And you're in a great relationship, so that means that's fabulous. You see all men. And we do make that appalling generalization, thinking that the whole gender is now, you know, is cast under the shadow of the ghost of this bad relationship. When you've been in a sexually abusive relationship, that can cast a huge shadow of your future relationship. And that's where you've got to go back, realizing that person is not indicative of the whole gender. If one takes it back even further to a relationship, and Freud, of course, had a field day with this and said that the people that we seek out are people like a parent. And hence the Oedipal complex, which is the notion that we actually seek out people that are like our mother. And sometimes you'll hear people say, you know, the girlfriend looks a bit like the mother. And I don't say that happens all the time, but why is that happening is because your first relationships are where you build memories around what romantic love is all about. Okay, why are we talking about our mothers? Because that first love relationship was the most intimate and connected that we ever had. And so we look on. Why do we talk about people who were abused as children going back into abused relationships, Because that is what they used to, and they often seek to master those hurts and those difficulties in future relationships. So if you think about it, our past, we don't want to say our past determines our future. And this is, I think, what this show is about, is to say, how do we cut the bonds with those ghosts? Because, yes, that is the reality. They will be there to affect us, but at some point we have to become conscious and say, okay, I'm not going to fall into these traps again. I'm going to look for something new, for something different. I think if you move to a new relationship that is working, you will shift your focus. Unfortunately, what often happens is that people, I mean, I see another thing where people go back to the same relationship. It didn't work. Something was, and they go back and they go back and they go back to that person, even though the relationship is not working. And every time they say it's going to be different, and it isn't different. They can't quite let go of one another, even though they've decided to split up. And at that point, the question, are we conscious or not, is one's got to actually decide. And as you say, yes, maybe go to a therapist and work to fix this relationship, or end it and deal with the pain initially. To think you can be friends is very tough, because it's very easy to slip back into that sexual relationship because that's what's familiar.
So I met this new man that I'm with, and I'm happy with him, but I just find myself constantly wanting to go back to the old boyfriend, and I even went back to him in December only for 2 weeks. I want to be happy with this new man, but my old boyfriend is like stopping me from being happy with my new man.
There's another factor there, which unfortunately is the principle of unattainability. The moment we can't have something, we tend to want it, and we see this even in the beginning when we first move into a relationship, and then we talk about playing hard to get. It's an unfortunate game to play, but at the same time it has a real point, that when you can't have someone, their value tends to rise. When you've got someone in your life, you can see them warts and all. And so the question is, whether, if you look at attributes of these two people, whether there is actually, if you look at them, and I would actually write them down, see what it is that you value about these two people, and then tally it up. If you've done that process and you've made the decision, then it may be a question of sticking to your choice, and holding through, knowing that time will erode. Because at the moment what you're doing is you're focusing on all the positive attributes of your ex, and possibly you're only looking at the negatives of your current partner. What you need to start doing is focusing on the positive attributes of your current partner, and actually, I'm afraid, yes, focus on the negative attributes of your ex.